Welcome to the Pulsating Biology, and we were covering the chapter in O-Levels Biology, that is nutrition in animals. We have already discussed most of its topic, and in today's video, after discussing the pharynx in the last video, the next organ that we have is the esophagus. Esophagus or esophagus, whatever you want to pronounce it, this is basically the next organ. It is basically a narrow, muscular, long, hollow tube, you can say. It's not termed as an organ, instead it is known as the long, hollow tube. When you talk about long, hollow tube, long means that it is elongated, and hollow means something that has a space in it. So it is a long hollow tube which lets the food particle to pass through by passing it through the pharynx. Alright, so it is a long hollow tube which is also majorly known as the passage of food particle. Trachea is a passage for the air particles. Similarly, esophagus is a passage of food particles. Also, one important thing that you need to know is that in the esophagus there is no digestion taking place. They often ask in the question in the O-Levels Biology that in which structure of the GIT is basically not included in the digestion. So the answer is esophagus, as esophagus just is a hollow tube that allows the food particles to pass through it and reach the area of the stomach. It does not allow any digestion to take place over here. What is the length of esophagus? As we say, it is a long hollow tube. Basically, it is elongated for about 25 centimeter to 30 centimeter. This is the basic length of a esophagus. Let's learn about some layers of esophagus that are also known as the layers of gut. There are 4 layers in the esophagus, that is the digestive tract. One is the serosa. On number 2 we have muscularis, or you can say muscular layer. On number 3 we have submucosa. And on number 4 we have mucosa. So there are 4 layers that are present. One is the serosa, then muscular layer, then submucosa, and the mucosa. We are going to talk about them each one by one. So serosa is the outermost layer. It is moist and slippery. Due to this, it basically reduces the friction that helps the food particles to easily glide it down. Next we have the muscular layer. This muscular layer are basically 2 layers consisting of 2 muscles. One is the longitudinal muscle, and it also consists of another kind of muscle, that is the longitudinal and the circular muscles. These 2 muscles basically makes up the muscular layer. As the word itself says, muscular, that means it is made up of muscles. So the 2 muscles that are included in this layer is the longitudinal and the circular muscle. Alright, on number 3 we have submucosa. Submucosa is known for consisting the blood vessels. All of the blood vessels or the blood content that runs in the gut is basically going through submucosa. At last, what is meant by mucosa? It is basically an extensive layer. This extensive layer contains glands. When submucosa contains blood vessels, the mucosa is known for carrying glands. These are the 4 layers of the gut you need to know about: serosa, muscular layer, submucosa, and the mucosa. Alright, this is the basic information about the esophagus. Let's learn about the functions of esophagus. When you're talking about the functions of esophagus, you must know that firstly, I've already told you that in the esophagus, it is does not known for digestion. So basically, no digestion takes place in the esophagus. This is to be considered as the first function, that is, food is not digested here. Food is not digested here. It is just a part of the GIT. However, it is only used to promote the food particles from the pharynx to the stomach, but it is not digested at that place. Alright, it also is included in the movement of muscles that is known as the peristalsis. We are going to learn about peristalsis in detail. That peristalsis are basically wave-like movement. They are the movement. But what kind of movement? They are wave-like movement. These wave-like movements that we often experience whenever we eat something that is not very suitable for our stomach, this is the kind of movement that we feel. And in this movement, basically what happens is that the two muscles in the muscularis layer that we learn already is the circular muscle and the longitudinal muscle. These two muscles basically becomes active and they are contracted. Whenever these muscles contract very sufficiently, there is a movement that is known as the peristalsis movement, which basically results in a vomit. Alright, so this is the peristalsis movement. Whenever the circular and the longitudinal muscle contracts very efficiently, we say that the peristalsis is basically performed, and that basically in which the esophagus is which involved. Alright, how much time does the esophagus takes to promote the food from the upper region to the stomach? So it takes around 5 to 10 seconds for each food molecule to be reached into the stomach. As after the esophagus, the organ we have is the stomach, and in the stomach there are three regions. The uppermost region that is basically linked with the esophagus is known to be a sphincter. So that sphincter is helping to link the esophagus with the stomach. These are the functions of the esophagus. All right. After the esophagus, the organ that we have is the stomach. Let's have a look at this diagram before we start. What is a stomach and how does it function? Basically, it consists of three major regions. The uppermost region that we see over here is known as the fundus region. Then you come down, this region over here is known as the body of the stomach. Then you come more down, then you can see these rings around the body. This region is known as the pylorus of the stomach. Pylorus of the stomach. The upper layer here is known as the antrum. So three regions are there: fundus, pylorus, and on the beginning we have the cardiac region. All of these three regions consist of sphincters. Sphincters are the region that connects the upper organ to another organ. So the stomach and the esophagus are basically joined together with the cardiac sphincter. So the three regions are the cardiac region, fundus region, and the pylorus region. And the upper layer above the pylorus is named as the antrum. The rest of the part of the stomach is known as the body. Once you have learned these parts of the stomach, then it will be easy for you to understand that what is a stomach. When you talk about what is a stomach, it is basically a distensible muscular organ. Distensible muscular organ. What is meant by a distensible muscular organ? It means that it is able to store much amount of a content, but it contains several muscles. All of those muscles that we learned earlier are basically present in the GIT, that is the stomach. It is present beneath the diaphragm. After the esophagus, there is a stomach, and also the other reason that we call it as a stomach is that it is beneath the diaphragm. What is a diaphragm? When you talk about respiratory system, if you talk about these are the two lungs, we say that there is a muscle that is present beneath these lungs, which is known as the diaphragm. It is a dome-shaped muscle that helps in the inspiration and the expiration. So whenever this inspiration and expiration takes place in the abdomen, on the left side of the abdomen, we say that there is a presence of the stomach. This stomach looks like a liver, but it is a stomach. Let me correct it a bit. Alright. So on the left side of the abdomen, beneath the diaphragm is a muscular organ that helps in the inspiration and the expiration, is basically known as the stomach. Alright. It consists of the three sphincters. Number one, cardiac. Number two, fundus, and then we have the pyloric. These are the three regions of the stomach. Other than that, it consists of our body. When you talk about cardiac, it is the uppermost region. The uppermost region that connects the esophagus and the stomach have a sphincter. Sphincter are known to be like these two muscles. These two muscles basically help in contracting and relaxing, that allows the organ to work more efficiently. So in the cardiac, we have the cardiac sphincter. Then in the pyloric, we have the pyloric sphincter. This pyloric sphincter helps us to be connected to the another next region, that is the region of the duodenum. Alright, so these are the two sphincters that is known. On the lower end, we have a pyloric sphincter. As you can see, the lower region is known as the pylorus, and it connects the duodenum to the stomach, that is the pyloric sphincter. Whereas the cardiac sphincter, it is the uppermost part and the body in the and we have a body in the middle, whereas the uppermost region and the left side of the stomach we say is the fundus. Where is fundus present? It is present beneath the diaphragm. Diaphragm are the muscles that is present in the respiratory system. You need to learn, this is the enough information that you need to learn in the stomach. I've already spoken about what is the stomach and how does the stomach work. Now next we have is the functions of the stomach. So the stomach is basically majorly known for releasing some gastric juices. These gastric juices help us in the digestion. Later we are going to talk about that what kinds of the gastric juices are basically released. But another function that stomach performs is the peristalsis. In the peristalsis, I've already told that peristalsis is the movement in which we have the two kinds of the muscles, the circular muscle and the longitudinal muscle. These two muscle contraction helps us to basically perform peristalsis. This peristalsis mixed with the food and churns the food that is in the stomach. Alright, so this is basically the peristalsis. The stomach functions in the movement of the peristalsis. When you talk about the gastric juices that are basically released by the stomach are the HCl, are the pepsin, are the renin. Alright. These are the three kinds of the functions, that is gastric juices that are basically released with the stomach. When you talk about HCl is slightly acidic in nature. Slightly acidic in nature, and it helps to kill all the microbes and the microorganisms that are after passing the third line of defense are basically present in the stomach. It is slightly acidic, that means it will have the pH is around 2. What does it do is that it destructs the salivary amylase. It destructs the salivary amylase that are often present in the stomach. Other than that, it also activates other enzymes. For example, pepsin. When you talk about the gastric juice release, one of that is pepsin, and pepsin is released in an inactive form. So many other enzymes that are released in inactive form, HCl basically helps us to convert them into an active form. Other than that, it simply kills all the microorganisms. All the microorganisms basically that pass after the third line of the defense. When you talk about the pepsin is secreted as pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is an active form, and the pepsin is an inactive form. What does it do? The pepsin basically converts the polypeptides into the peptones. Polypeptides into the peptones. How is it activated? It is activated by the HCl. Now, let's talk about the renin. The third release of the gastric juice is the renin. What does the renin do? Renin is basically performs function in the curdling the milk. It is released in an inactive form. This is an active form that we say is a renin. The renin's inactive form is known to be prorenin, which is also activated by the HCl. This is all that you need to learn about the functions of stomach and the gastric juices. The gastric juices contains three kinds of the release, that is the HCl, pepsin and the renin, and how it is converted by the help of HCl into an activated form and how this is function. This is all they need to learn about functions. We will be covering the rest of the topics in the next video. Thank you.